I want to make a short video about just being here by myself, speaking with myself, and once again emphasizing the importance of self-reinforcement during embodied language. Self-reinforcement means that you enjoy doing it, that you like to speak with yourself and listen to yourself, and that you say, of course, things which are important to you, things which are meaningful, things which are truthful. And so you speak your own truth and you feel, wow, that feels so good. And you can formulate it so well. It's so satisfying. It's so regulating. Yeah. So self-reinforcement, also called automatic reinforcement, is another word for self-regulation. And regardless of what has happened to you, or who you are, where you are, and what you believe, you can talk out loud with yourself, just like I do. And you can just begin to listen to yourself. And if you notice that you're not listening to yourself, then you can stop talking for a little bit and let yourself know that you want to hear yourself. Or you need to maybe explain to yourself, why are you not listening? Oh, you're too busy with what you're saying. Or, oh, you are, I don't know, struggling and I don't know, there's something wrong with you. Yeah, you're experiencing something negative. You are dissatisfied. You are conflicted. You are troubled. You don't sound good. Oh, you don't want to hear yourself when you don't sound good. But you do want to hear yourself when you sound good. Yeah. So you tell yourself why you want to have embodied language. And you also tell yourself why you don't want to have disembodied language, in which you do not listen to yourself. Yeah. So this self-reinforcement, automatic reinforcement, is a matter of, getting to know yourself. Yeah. And then you're speaking with yourself, you're listening to yourself. It fills you up with energy. It is such a nice feeling. And anything you like to do feels good, right? Whether it is making music or playing soccer or whatever it is that you enjoy doing and that you can't get enough of, that is what self-reinforcement is all about. You enjoy doing it. You are naturally attracted to it. And it is like that with your embodied language. So after you have had that by yourself in 2026, at the 4th of July, or after the 4th of July, that's Independence Day. That's when America celebrates its anniversary, 250 years of America. That is when we celebrate the golden era of America with our embodied language. Yeah. The language of our individual freedom is aligned with America and with American ideals, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yeah. And so, and then we will mutually reinforce each other, right? Because, we have historically reinforced each other's disembodied language. But once we come to know on our own by talking out loud with ourselves and by producing the sound that we want to hear, by saying the things that we want to express, that we enjoy expressing, then, once we have had our own automatic reinforcement, because it is so enjoyable, then we will be able to reinforce each other as we continue to speak with each other while listening to ourselves. Yeah, that is when we celebrate our language enlightenment together. Now, I look forward to that. It is very important to understand that there is in algebra there is an order of operations, where you do the exponents first and then the parentheses and so forth. Dear I forget the acronym. I have to look it up. Um, um, there was an acronym that sort of you can remember that acronym to remember the order of operations. But the order of operations in embodied language is very simple. You first got to talk with yourself, and then you can be reinforced by others who have also talked with themselves. Yeah. And so speaking with yourself is actually more important in embodied language than speaking with others. Yeah. And yeah, you would have to also disconnect or dissociate, or how do you call that? You don't want to continue being involved in disembodied language. And so you have to distance yourself. Sorry, that was the word I was looking for. Yeah. Oh, the acronym was please. Oh, PEMDAS. 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 Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. That means parentheses. PE exponents, multiplication, division. A is adding, and the S is subtracting. Yeah. That's how you solve a quadratic equation. I know about that stuff. Yeah. Anyway, there is a method to embodied language. There really is. Yeah. You need to get into the reasoning that also goes with embodied language. So as long as you keep listening to other people, or you're trying to make other people listen to you, you're not listening to yourself. So this is also one of the reasons why being busy with others, you never listen to yourself. And then eventually, when you have had embodied language by yourself, when you have experienced the benediction of just talking with yourself, listening to yourself, telling everything that you can tell yourself, then we will be able to socially reinforce each other. Yeah. And then we will celebrate our language enlightenment together. Now, that's what I wanted to say. I know it is another repetition in a sense of what I have already said, but I find it important to repeat, because what I'm saying is that there is this order which starts with you listening to yourself, speaking with yourself, you stopping with the expression of disembodied language so that you can produce the sound that you want to hear. Because your disembodied language, you don't want to listen to it. That's why you're not listening. So when you produce a sound that you want to hear, that's when you begin to listen. So there's this order. And yes, you need to distance yourself from disembodied language with others in order to be able to have embodied language by yourself. And there's many more steps to be taken. Yeah. There is, of course, as I have said already many times, the fact that there is no inner language, that there is no mind. There are no thoughts in embodied language. There's no, you don't have cognitions, as they say. Yeah, there's no language going on inside your head. It's very important to recognize that and to say this to yourself, and to repeatedly say this to yourself. You need to repeatedly say to yourself that it is not true that you believe to have thoughts, that there is, language running amok while you're just sitting there by yourself. You're having all these thoughts which are flooding you. What is that? That is involuntary language. You imagine that you are being flooded by involuntary language, but there is no language inside of you. So once you begin to say to yourself, no, it is not true. There is no, it's just like waking up from a dream. No, the dream was not true. You were just dreaming. Okay. In the same way, the fantasy about inner language is created by your disembodied language, in which you didn't listen to yourself. Once you begin to listen to yourself and you say, wow, so whenever I believe to have a thought, I am again in the grip of disembodied language, which is my past conditioning, of course. And how can you counteract that past conditioning if not by telling yourself the opposite of what you believed? You believed that there's inner language because you couldn't express yourself when you didn't listen to yourself, when you were forced to listen to others, or you were trying like crazy to make other people listen to you, but you were never, ever listening to yourself. You've never talked with yourself in order to be able to listen to yourself. So once you begin to do that, you counteract your own conditioning history. And yes, you need to say it repeatedly. You need to say it in every way you can, that it is not true, that there is language within you. There are no words in your brain. There is no internal dialogue going on. It's just not true. You need to say that endlessly in order for you to change your neural behavior, to change your neural your body, because your body has been affected by these previous environments. And so your neuronal activity is going to change because you talk out loud with yourself and you regulate your own nervous system every time you are having embodied language. But as soon as you again revert back to disembodied language, you must acknowledge you dysregulate yourself. Disembodied language is dysregulating you, is jacking up your autonomic nervous system. In disembodied language, you are endlessly imprisoned by the reactivity of your autonomic nervous system, which senses somehow that you are in danger. You experience some kind of a threat. You experience negativity, and you want to fight, you want to flee, you want to freeze. That is what happened in disembodied language, in which everybody, by the way, is of course always arguing and fighting with each other and discussing and disagreeing. But in embodied language, none of that is happening. So in embodied language, you are totally at peace. There's no aversive stimulation. And so all of this is important for you to say this to yourself. And if you know anything about polyvagal theory, I highly recommend anyone to explore what is polyvagal theory and why do a lot of therapists nowadays also address the polyvagal theory. In polyvagal theory, of course, the issue of prosody is addressed. Prosody is how we sound, and so how we sound while we speak signifies the state of our autonomic nervous system. So when you are stressed, when you are worried, when you are anxious, when you are fearful, when you are full of hate and full of resentment and full of frustration, you sound very different. When you're fighting and fleeing and fighting and arguing, and when you are so scared and you feel so humiliated, you feel so ignored, you feel so rejected that you're freezing. You're stone cold. That's what we say. We have all these kind of metaphorical ways of referring to this. But what happens is, in terms of your autonomic response, you are sympathetically activated. Fight, flight, freeze response. And so you are not able to properly become socially engaged. And your social engagement is only coming online, your ability to think, what we call thinking. But of course, it has nothing to do with thinking. It has to do with the way of talking in which you enjoy hearing your own sound. That is when you begin to become reasonable. That is when you begin to become self-regulated. That is when you begin to use your intelligence. So all of this has been in disembodied language construed as an internal phenomenon, like, oh, your intelligence is something like you have to use your brain. No, you have to speak. You have to hear yourself while you speak, and you have to write and read what you have written. And so if you begin to speak about it and hear yourself and then perhaps also you begin to write about what it is like to hear yourself, then you read it, you will crystallize everything that you have been saying because you have written it and because you have read it. And the more you do that, the more language becomes a voluntary act, and the more you realize, like, no, it is true. There is no inner language. Yeah, the illusion of inner language was created by the disembodied language in which you couldn't be overtly verbal. Yeah, completely. You couldn't say what you wanted to say, but in embodied language you can, and you will. Yeah, predictably, you are going to, if you really listen to yourself. So, that is what I wanted to say for today.